unseen. The haunting of the abandoned asylum, a terrifying encounter with the unseen. There was an abandoned building on the outskirts of town that nobody dared to visit due to the strange stories that surrounded it. People said that the building was haunted by ghosts and evil spirits. But one day, a group of curious friends decided to investigate the place. As they entered, everything seemed normal, but soon they began to hear strange noises and feel the presence of something unseen. They tried to find the source of the noises, but they couldn't find anything. Suddenly, they felt a cold breeze and saw a shadowy figure moving in the corner of their eye. They started to feel uneasy and decided to leave the building as soon as possible. But when they tried to leave, they found that the doors were locked and wouldn't open. They were trapped inside with the mysterious presence. They tried to stay calm and eventually found a hidden door that led them to safety. But they couldn't shake off the feeling that they had narrowly escaped something sinister in that abandoned building. After their terrifying experience, the group of friends couldn't stop talking about the strange occurrences in the abandoned building. They were convinced that the building was truly haunted by something sinister. They felt compelled to investigate further and find out what was really happening in that place. They did some research and found out that the building used to be an asylum for the mentally ill, and that there had been reports of mistreatment and abuse towards the patients. They also found out that many of the patients had died under mysterious circumstances. The friends theorized that the spirits of the mistreated patients were still trapped in the building, seeking revenge for their suffering. Determined to find out the truth, the friends returned to the building with a Ouija board, hoping to communicate with the spirits. But they quickly learned that they had made a grave mistake, as they were confronted with a terrifying force that seemed to be malevolent. They barely escaped the building alive, vowing never to return again. The group of friends never spoke about their terrifying experience again, but they were forever changed by the events that occurred in that abandoned building. They couldn't shake off the feeling that they had uncovered something sinister that was best left undisturbed. The Haunted Village, a community's struggle to balance history and economy. There was a small village nestled deep in the forest, where strange things began to happen. The villagers started to report mysterious disappearances and sightings of ghostly figures. They were terrified and didn't know what to do. They turned to the local priest for help, who decided to investigate the matter. As he delved deeper into the mystery, the priest discovered that the village was built on an ancient burial ground. The spirits of the dead were disturbed by the presence of the living, and they wanted the village to be abandoned. The priest organized an exorcism ceremony to lay the spirits to rest. The ceremony was a success, and the strange occurrences stopped. The villagers were finally able to live in peace. But as a precaution, the priest advised the villagers to respect the dead and not to build on top of the ancient burial ground again. The villagers took the priest's advice to heart, and they never built on that land again. They also erected a small shrine to honor the spirits of the dead, in the hopes that they would continue to rest in peace. But even though the strange occurrences had stopped, some villagers still claimed to see ghostly figures wandering in the forest at night, reminding them of the past and the importance of respecting the dead. As the years passed, the village became known for its eerie past and the legend of the spirits that haunted it. Many people were curious and wanted to know more about the village's history. Some even came to the village to experience the paranormal phenomenon for themselves. The villagers were torn between being proud of their village's history and the fear of the spirits returning. Some of the villagers started to give guided tours of the village, showing the visitors the places where the strange events had occurred and the shrine that was built to honor the spirits. As the village became more popular, some entrepreneurs opened up businesses catering to tourists, such as ghost tours and paranormal investigation companies. The village's economy improved, but the villagers couldn't shake off the feeling that they were profiting off of something that was sacred and should be respected. The village leaders held a meeting to discuss how to proceed. They decided to create a set of rules to protect the spirits and the village's history, and to educate the visitors about the importance of respecting the dead. They also created a committee to monitor and regulate the businesses that were operating the village. With this new approach, the village was able to balance its history, culture, and economy, while ensuring that the spirits of the dead were respected and honored. The Haunted Mansion, a teenage thrill-seeker's encounter with a killer's victims. In the small town of Millfield, there was a large, imposing mansion that had been abandoned for decades. The locals whispered that the mansion was cursed, and that anyone who dared to enter would never return. Despite the warnings, a group of teenagers decided to explore the mansion one night, thinking it would be a thrilling adventure. As soon as they entered the mansion, they knew they had made a mistake. The air was thick with an oppressive sense of dread, and the musty smell of decay filled their nostrils. As they explored the crumbling, dilapidated rooms, they heard strange noises and saw shadowy figures moving in the darkness. Suddenly, they heard a blood-curdling scream coming from the basement. They rushed downstairs, only to find a room filled with human bones and signs of gruesome murder. They realized that the mansion had been the site of a serial killer's crimes, and the spirits of the victims were still trapped within the walls. Terrified and guilt-ridden, the teenagers ran out of the mansion and never spoke of their experience again. But the memory of that night stayed with them, and they couldn't shake off the feeling that they had disturbed something that should have been left undisturbed. The mansion remained abandoned, and the townspeople avoided it like the plague. Some claimed to see ghostly figures wandering the grounds at night, a reminder of the past and the horror that had occurred within those walls. As the years passed, the legend of the haunted mansion grew, and it became a popular destination for thrill seekers and ghost hunters. People would sneak onto the property to experience the supposed paranormal activity for themselves. The town council knew they had to do something to stop the trespassing and vandalism that was happening at the mansion. They decided to turn the mansion into a tourist attraction and a historical site. They hired a team of historians and paranormal investigators to research the mansion's past and to document the alleged ghost sightings. They also put up a fence around the property and stationed security guards to keep people out at night. During the renovation, they discovered that the mansion had a fascinating history. It was built by a wealthy businessman in the late 1800s, who was known for his eccentricity and his love of the occult. It was said that he had used the mansion to hold secret rituals and summon spirits. The team of investigators also found evidence of the serial killings that had occurred in the mansion, as well as other dark secrets that had been hidden for years. The town council decided to include this information in the tours and to educate the visitors about the mansion's dark past and to honor the victims. With this new approach, the mansion became a popular tourist destination and it brought new life to the town. Visitors were able to learn about the history and culture of the area while respecting the spirits of the past. The Haunted House of Salem, a young couple's encounter with the spirits of the witches. In the sleepy town of Salem, there was a house that stood out among the others. It was a grand, old Victorian mansion that had been abandoned for years. The locals whispered that the house was cursed and that it was home to the spirits of the witches who had been persecuted and executed during the infamous Salem witch trials of 1692. One day, a young couple decided to buy the house and renovate it. They were excited to restore the grand old mansion to its former glory and make it their dream home. However, as soon as they began the renovation, strange things started to happen. They heard strange noises, saw ghostly figures, and felt a sense of dread whenever they were in the house. The couple soon realized that the house was indeed haunted by the spirits of the witches. They felt guilty for disturbing the spirits and for not respecting the history of the house. They did some research and found out that the house had been built on top of the land where the witches had been buried. Feeling remorse, the couple decided to stop the renovation and to honor the spirits of the witches. They erected a small monument on the property, and they created a garden to commemorate the victims of the witch trials. They also decided to open the house as a museum, to educate the visitors about the history of the witch trials and to honor the memory of the victims. With this new approach, the couple was able to balance their dream of owning a grand old mansion with the respect for the spirits of the past. They lived in the house, and they were able to enjoy it with the spirits of the witches, who no longer disturbed them. The Haunted House of Salem, a young couple's encounter with the spirits of the witches. In the sleepy town of Salem, there was a house that stood out among the others. It was a grand, old Victorian mansion that had been abandoned for years. The locals whispered that the house was cursed and that it was home to the spirits of the witches who had been persecuted and executed during the infamous Salem witch trials of 1692. One day, a young couple decided to buy the house and renovate it. They were excited to restore the grand old mansion to its former glory and make it their dream home. However, as soon as they began the renovation, strange things started to happen. They heard strange noises, saw ghostly figures, and felt a sense of dread whenever they were in the house. The couple soon realized that the house was indeed haunted by the spirits of the witches. They felt guilty for disturbing the spirits and for not respecting the history of the house. They did some research and found out that the house had been built on top of the land where the witches had been buried. Feeling remorse, the couple decided to stop the renovation and to honor the spirits of the witches. They erected a small monument on the property, and they created a garden to commemorate the victims of the witch trials. They also decided to open the house as a museum, to educate the visitors about the history of the witch trials and to honor the memory of the victims. With this new approach, the couple was able to balance their dream of owning a grand old mansion with the respect for the spirits of the past. They lived in the house, and they were able to enjoy it with the spirits of the witches, who no longer disturbed them. The Haunted Hotel of Oakwood. A group of friends encounter with a spirit bride seeking for justice. In the quiet town of Oakwood, there was an old, abandoned hotel that had been the talk of the town for years. The locals whispered that the hotel was haunted by the spirit of a young bride, who had died on her wedding night in one of the hotel rooms. Despite the warnings, a group of friends decided to spend the night at the hotel as a dare. As soon as they entered the hotel, they knew they had made a mistake. The air was thick with an oppressive sense of dread, and the musty smell of decay filled their nostrils. They heard strange noises and saw shadowy figures moving in the darkness, but they decided to go through with their plan and spend the night in the hotel. As the night progressed, strange things started to happen. They heard strange noises coming from the walls, and they saw ghostly figures wandering the halls. They were terrified and wished they had never come to the hotel. In the middle of the night, they heard a knock on the door of their room. They opened the door, and there stood a young woman, dressed in a wedding gown. She introduced herself as the spirit of the hotel's bride, who had died on her wedding night. She told them that she had been waiting for someone to come and help her find peace. The bride explained that she had been killed by her jealous husband on their wedding night, and her body was hidden in the hotel. She begged the friends to help her find her body and to bring her remains to the cemetery, where she could finally be reunited with her family. The friends were hesitant at first, but they realized that the spirit was not there to harm them. They searched the hotel and found the bride's body hidden in the basement. They dug up the remains and brought them to the cemetery, where they were able to bury her next to her family. As soon as the remains were buried, the spirit of the bride finally found peace and the hotel was no longer haunted. The friends were relieved and grateful that they could help the spirit find closure. The Cursed Mansion of Willow Creek. A group of friends encountered with a girl trapped in a room by her cruel parents. In the small town of Willow Creek, there was an old, abandoned mansion that had been the talk of the town for years. The locals whispered that the mansion was cursed and that anyone who dared to enter would be doomed to a terrible fate. Despite the warnings, a group of friends decided to explore the mansion one night, thinking it would be a thrilling adventure. As they entered the mansion, they were immediately struck by its eerie atmosphere. The musty smell of decay filled their nostrils, and they heard strange noises coming from the darkness. They decided to split up and explore the mansion, but as they went deeper into the house, they started to feel a sense of unease. As they explored the mansion, they found a room that was locked. They tried to open it, but it was locked tight. Suddenly, they heard a voice on the other side of the door, begging for help. The voice belonged to a young girl who had been locked in the room by her cruel parents. She had been trapped in the room for years, and she was running out of food and water. The friends were horrified and immediately set out to find the key to unlock the door. They searched the mansion and found the key hidden in a secret compartment. They unlocked the door and found the young girl, who was weak and emaciated. They took her out of the room and gave her food and water. The young girl told them that her parents had locked her in the room because they believed she was cursed and that her presence would bring bad luck to the family. She had been trapped in the room for years with no hope of escape. Feeling remorse, the friends decided to take the girl out of the mansion and to take care of her. They took her to a hospital and called the police. They reported the case to the authorities and the girl's parents were arrested for child abuse. The friends were able to help the young girl who had been trapped in the mansion for years, and they were able to bring her to safety. They realized that the so-called curse of the mansion was actually a plea for help, and they were glad they could help the girl find freedom and justice. How do you like the stories? How do you think they actually happened? The best rewards are your comments and likes. Thank you for watching.